But we're talking about what you've been doing. You've been looking at stuff to do with programming Arvo. Yeah, do you want to go
Yeah,
into that?
so a lot of we went through last week. There's a lot of design stuff that is down, and Gemma and I, the two people working on it, we're both designers.
Yeah.
So we're pretty confident with that. It's our programming that we're concerned about, especially because it's been a bit of a trend with the games we've been making, where each new one we kind of jump into something we've never really done before, and are only able to carry across some things. So yeah, with Arvo, driving and physics is new ground for us. So yeah, I've just been doing some research into the physics systems, things like the physics handle and physics constraint, and how those can work to help the player pick up physics objects. And then this weekend, yeah, I'll dive into setting up just the default car for now from the Chaos Vehicles stuff, but just sort of yeah, essentially doing like pre-production programming, doing some programming to find the trouble areas and get familiar with it before I have to sort of start committing things.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool. Now, when you say programming, obviously you're talking about blueprint scripting.
Yes.
Not you're not jumping into C plus plus yet, Fraser.
If I jumped in, it would throw me back out, I fear.
Yeah, sure. Okay. So you see, you haven't done. I mean, you've sort of developed a few games where you have done the scripting. I mean, is that how has it has it gone? I mean, you've had some fairly reasonable successes, yeah.
Yeah, I think, uh, I mean, my brain is quite happy with the sort of logic and flow that you get from visual
Mm.
scripting.
Mm-hmm.
I was doing a lot of maths and physics and chem in high school
Mm-hmm.
with plans to follow that up, and so the design and stuff only came in later. So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
Unreal Engine blueprints have been nice, and like I've found a good sort of level of obviously being blueprints but having customization in there. But I've
Mm-hmm.
also worked with Construct, which is a even more sort of user friendly visual scripting tool. Um,
What's that with? What does that work with? Construct.
uh, I'm not. I mean, that's like the game engine, I believe.
Oh, really? Okay, I haven't come across that.
Yeah,
That's a new one for me.
Construct 3. Yeah, that's what I used.
All right.
Um, it's sort of like yeah, a more stripped back version of Blueprints. It's visual scripting.
Right.
Um, Mostly designed for 2D stuff, but when I
Mm-hmm.
was jumping in, they just put out stuff for 2.5D. Um, so
2.5D. Yay.
yeah, so they have like
Nice.
that depth access, and so Jolt, which is one of the games that I've broken down on my website.
Mm-hmm.
I was the sole programmer for that one.
Mm-hmm.
um, I was partnered with someone in like a two-person group who was using it, and
Mm-hmm.
I watched them use it, and I was like, I could do that, and then yeah, so I developed that one.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Cool. So today, yeah, we're going to carry on. So last week we went through your game design documents, yeah, or your
Yeah,
game
we went
design
through the
presentation,
pitch.
wasn't it? Yeah, yeah. So today we're going to start, I guess, diving in sort of a bit more deep dive. So going into more detail using what are we using again?
Canva.
Canva. What are they? Canva canvases or what do we call these things? They're like whiteboards, aren't they?
Whiteboard.
We call it a
Board.
whiteboard,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay, whiteboard. I'm good with that. So, just say something,
Yep.
Fraser.
Sorry,
Yeah,
I
cool.
can
I'm
talk.
just
You go.
checking with you whether the audio's
Yeah,
coming through.
fair enough.
Okay, so that's what we're going to do. So this is, I guess, this is a bit of a first in a way. You haven't sort of used this process before.
No.
This is something I developed kind of as part of a PhD that I'm working on. Still working on. It's been going for a while now. So we're going to go through. We're going to see how things go, I guess, and maybe work out a bit of a one of the really important things in all design processes is having a certain amount of flexibility. So not necessarily just sort of sticking with a rigid sort of way to do things. So that's kind of why we're using the whiteboard. It should be pretty flexible, I think, shouldn't it? It should be a pretty good way to go. So the first thing we want to do, and I'm not sure how we're going to do this with the whiteboard. It's going to be interesting. So this is a bit of a work in progress, but we do want to talk. Oh, you can't see my screen, can you? Do you want to see my screen?
I've got your Twitch up, so it's.
Oh, you can see. Okay, so you can see. So it's a little bit of a delay there, isn't it? But not too bad.
Small,
yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
So the first thing, and the first thing we're going to talk about is we're going to go from the high level. So the whole idea with this process is to start big picture, and then drill down to the detail. Because that's one of the big issues with designing games, and particularly with designers who kind of, the creative process is often fairly unstructured, and I think that's how it has to be, and it's also often quite vague, and you'll have sort of a feeling about something, and you'll be like, oh, okay, this would be really good, and doing this might be really good, and that's all great, but then when you come to putting your designs down on paper, and then obviously these designs have to go and one day get constructed into an actual game, then you really need that detail. So that's kind of where we start with the big picture, and we should hopefully get down to a point where you could pass your design off to your design team and your coders, and they should be able to build your game with hopefully as few questions left out as possible. Big reason for that is, well, and I've personally experienced this working I have worked as a programmer, and coming to a point where you're creating something, and the design information, the design documents you have just don't answer some really fundamental questions. And there's a program, and the designer's not there. Quite often the designer might be off working on something else, doing pre-production on some other thing, or you don't know yet, but they're not necessarily there. And so you're left as a coder. You sort of think, well, okay, you talk to people, hey, what's the solution? What am I supposed to do here? And your IT manager, IT director might be saying, well, I don't know. So I'm not the designer. You talk to as many people as possible. At the end of the day, I've been in the situation where I've had to make these decisions, and decisions which had quite an impact on the actual final product. And at times, some of those decisions were wrong, so we had to go back and undo them again. At other times, they just sort of went under the radar. It's like, well, this is this is designed by the IT team. So trying to avoid that. I mean, really, the design, although you certainly can design a game, you can sort of get in there with a team. If you're working in a small team, I mean, there's times when maybe you want to work together and do some consultation and do some ideation. But then there's the point where you've got the game and you want to keep moving forward, and you want to have as much laid out as you possibly can. So that's the goal that we're trying to get to. So we're going to start today. Number one, I guess, dealing with the relationship. The first thing is the relationship between the player and the game. So I've got this open here in PowerPoint. So I don't know what's the best thing to do. So we're going to be working on, if I can find it, working on the whiteboard. Oh, geez, can we make the whiteboard less white? Can we change the background to non-blinding?
Surely, right?
Something off color would be, just a little darker.
I feel like,
No, I haven't used this before either, so I got no idea. What's this share? Share. Oh, okay. Okay. We don't want to do that. Can I upload stuff? File. Upload files. Okay.
I am searching for a setting to change. Could have sworn there was, and I cannot.
It's alright. I'm just. Cool. Okay, I'm just going to upload an image while you're finding that. Can I just drag and drop? That'd be wonderful, wouldn't it?
Sometimes you can drag and drop. It
Yeah.
might get a little grumpy.
Intro. Oh. Huh? Well, it didn't work anyway. Okay, let's try it again. Oh, you know why I didn't have this open? Okay. Save as. PNG. Game dash player 01. Save. Interesting. Why is that not? Okay. Oh, okay. I've got two of them. Fantastic. Let's see if I can do this. Yay! Oh, beauty. Okay. Yeah, don't need to edit that one. How you doing? Ooh.
Lost. I could just put a big image down, then we can use that as the background.
Oh, so we can't. No, it's
I'm sure you can. I just can't figure out how to.
Analytics, Arvo design. Oh, what's this? Color, edit, edit, background remover.
Might be for your image specifically, I think.
Oh, okay. Okay, yeah. Oh, you've duplicated my image.
Oh, did I? How did I do that?
Wait, so
How did that happen?
I have no idea. I'm getting used to the white anyway. I think it's probably burnt my retinas now. So, yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna turn the lights on in the room when I open up Canva just to try and balance it.
Can we? Well, anyway, the central kind of image is there. So what we want to do is, I guess, go through the list and answer the ones we want. So, talking specifically, about, and maybe it's worth going even back to your presentation and sort of going between those, because you did have some of this already answered. So I know you did talk about some of the emotional aspects of the interaction with the game.
Yep.
I'm not sure. Maybe there was some stuff on mental state, meaningfulness as well. Social interaction. I mean, unless you're going to have multiplayer there, it's probably not really relevant? You're not planning multiplayer for this game?
No, not at this scope.
So time and space is the other one. So should we? Did you give me? How did we do this last week?
You should have access to the shared Google folder. Which has
Where did I put it?
I can drop you another link in your Discord.
In Discord? Okay.
Just send it through again.
Cool. Oh. Okay, I'm gonna have to disconnect from Discord. I'm in the wrong. I'm in my other Discord chat. Hang on,
Sure.
I'll switch over and I'll be back in just a second.
No worries.
Hey,
There we go.
what a surprise, eh? Okay. Copy link. And Arvo. Public version, creative pitch deck. Yep.
Yep. That's it.
Nice. All right. Okay. Are you able to see my screen? So yeah, here we go. So you've definitely got some emotional stuff here. So we can we can pull this apart a bit more as well. So the primary emotion. Do you want to read this one? It's your
Yeah.
yeah.
The primary emotion we want players to feel is appreciation. So to foster it, we intend to ask the player to perform extremely important tasks, that of delivering personal and precious items for a community which is unable to do so themselves, our robot NPCs. Through these actions, the player is rewarded with points and upgrades provided by the community, strengthening the shared connection. The environment will be free of actively hostile elements to encourage the player to explore and notice the little things while on their road trips. The music and audio will be peaceful to allow the player to relax and enter a flow state.
Cool. I'm seeing a few other things there as well. So I would say a feeling of safety would be part of that as well.
Yeah, I guess in the sense of in service to sort of exploration.
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, do you want to add? I'll let you do the do this kind of however you want to. Let's just go back to here. Am I able to zoom in a bit here? If I use the wheel. Oh, there we go. I see.
On the bottom.
Oh, I see. Oh, okay, there we go. Beautiful. Okay, so appreciation. So maybe just get without sort of worrying, analyzing it too much. Just get the different emotions down first. So this is the first one. Appreciation, yeah.
And then in my head, I'm jumping to exploration, but is that a emotion? Or do you think that's where that safety is more of that emotional connection?
Yeah, the emotion. Well, the emotions are really, like joy, fear, love, trust, anxiety, excitement, things like that. But
Would
I'd say let's just
curiosity
put
fit?
everything down. Put everything down. Don't worry about it too much, and we can put them in different categories later. I'm just
Okay.
interested to sort of see what you're trying to achieve first. So safety, yeah. Kind of a cozy game as well, is it? Is that meant to be a cozy
I,
game?
I'm not sure, honestly. It's not. I guess. Yeah, I guess it would be. It's just maybe not like traditionally
Mm-hmm.
cozy. Like it's
Mm-hmm.
not quite Stardew Valley as my sort of
Yeah.
touchstone. I do not know how to spell.
No, I think that's correct. Cozy. Yeah, I think that's right.
Um, and then yeah, I think connection and like
Connection.
community. Oh, that's not how I want that to work.
Is community another element as well that you
Yes.
so a sense of community? Oh, can I?
Um,
Oh, there we go. Position. There we go.
and then I think uh, I'm not sure. There's a word that's escaping me that's more fitting, but sort of that like importance. The idea that you have responsibilities and there is an appreciation and a value to those.
So self value.
Yep.
Yeah.
And like external validation for it, I guess.
Self value, social value. Yeah, validation. It's a good one. You said the music's going to be peaceful as well. So is that? Well, there's play to relax. So peaceful music, relaxation,
Music
flow
is
state.
a really tough one because neither of us are musically inclined.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're a little bit torn. Like some of our inspirations, and the overall concept inspiration of like road tripping, I think, is so heavily tied to music.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but at this scope of game, it's hard for me to sort of justify this idea of having a lot of licensed music, songs that people might recognize. Um,
Also the
and
cost.
so, yeah, and so there's a part of me that's like, it would be really cool to promote players to put their own playlists on while playing to hit that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so when we talk about music in this the design docs, it's more so um, as a placeholder or sort of to fill out the box for when we were playing, to be like, we know music is important, but we haven't really got anything special, unique in place.
Mm-hmm. Let's worry about that later. That's yeah. Let's not worry about that
Yep.
at the moment. I don't want to get bogged down in details, and that's definitely detail. That's
Mm-hmm.
yeah. So like I was saying before, there were where did it go now? Yeah. So I was saying relaxation and flow state is going to be another one as well. That's going to be mental state, but having that flow state is definitely important. So relaxation, peace, peace, man.
And you say put flow state in here as well.
Yeah, I think it's really good just to throw everything down without worrying about too much about it, and then sort of put it into different categories later.
Cool.
So you've also got notice the little things while on their road trips. Can you We got player encourage the player to explore and notice little things while on the road trips. Do you want to sort of expand on that a bit?
Yeah, I guess the idea is sort of that focus on uh, creating an environment that has sort of the big points of interest and landmarks that sort of are obvious places that can be explored, but also trying to imbue little bits of character in smaller things as well. If I look at the that first initial concept image that Gemma did, it's things like the post boxes being overflowing with letters and overgrown yards and streets that don't have concrete footpaths.
Mm-hmm.
Just little things that we know that sort of really set the environment, and anyone who's familiar with sort of that Australian outback would be able to recognize and go, oh yeah, that's not something I'd immediately think of. So that's what we're getting at by that sort of little things.
Right, right. What happened there? Okay. So yeah, do you want to put those? So well, there's also exploration. You've got relaxation, haven't you?
Oh,
yeah.
yep.
Exploration.
I missed that one.
I'm just interested in this notice the little things part. I guess that's part of being in the flow. To me, that implies a certain mental state.
Yeah, I think I see it as like a almost like a reference, I guess, but like to real world
Yeah, for
trends
sure.
and environments.
Yeah.
I don't know, I guess like nostalgia
Mm-hmm.
in a certain sense.
Okay, so you got your design goals there as well. I think it's probably worth, unless there's any other things you can think of here.
Nothing's jumping to mind. It's
So, because I think there's more in the design goals. You've used
Yep.
a pet hate word of mine when it comes to
Oh, have I?
games. Fun. Every fucking game is fun. Fuck off. I like those games that are that really punish you sometimes, because that can be very compelling. That's why. So fun is like, it's an empty word. It's a meaningless
Yeah.
word. So anyway, but
Yeah.
that's fine. It's there. You can use it.
So yeah, design goals, just fun. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
Fun and compelling driving experience, which distills the act of driving while maintaining the feeling. In pursuit of this goal, we have developed a mechanic we call Active Shift. Active Shift requires players to engage with driving in a more thoughtful manner than what is typical in non-racing games. Specifically, asking the player to give thought to the gears and how to change them when changing speed. Along with this, we are also looking to experiment with other mechanics such as the camera and steering to find solutions to problems with driving using digital inputs and the subsequent lack of precision.
You like this one, don't you? This is a little bit This reminds me a bit of what you've got in Deep Climb.
Deep Climb. Yeah, I think I I was writing a cover letter actually the other day,
Uh-huh.
and it was touching. It sort of gave me a moment to sort of realize some of my interests as a designer, which is tackling some problem solving and prototyping with sort of very clear constraints.
Mm-hmm.
And so when Gemma and I were sort of bouncing this idea around, I had a moment where I was like, nobody really likes driving on a keyboard and mouse. Like, if you're really playing a game with a lot of driving, you're typically going to get a controller out to have the analog input for steering.
Fair enough, yeah.
Or, if you're really into it, you're going to get a full like simulation steering wheel set up.
Yep. Yep.
And so, I was just bouncing ideas around with Gemma about coming up with solutions where we can use the mouse to get that sort of extra level of precision that you
Okay.
like. But I think in the process of going over this pitch over and over, that sort of element has fallen a bit towards the back. It sort of felt like secondary to, like, if we don't have this implemented,
Mm-hmm.
no, what am I trying to say? There, things like the active shift and the physics system and the deliveries and the driving itself feel far more pertinent to creating an enjoyable experience than coming up with a new, different control scheme for how you can drive the car.
Mm-hmm.
So I would love to get into that specific part, but it feels like that's my gift if I manage to do everything else on time.
So what are you planning to do? You're planning to stick with the uh, mouse and keyboard, or are you planning to use a controller? Is that what do you think you'll be doing?
I'm really keen on sticking with mouse and keyboard since
Mm-hmm.
it is, PC. We don't have intentions of porting it. Excuse me. I know I wrote it down somewhere in Discord. I'm trying to see if I can find the specifics, and if not, I'll just wing it from memory. Oh no, there it is. Yeah. So one of the ideas I had was, when you're driving, the majority of the input is done on the keyboard for the acceleration and whatnot,
Mm-hmm.
and typically also the steering. But you have your whole right hand free on the mouse, and so thinking of if you could like hold left click, which would then engage mouse steering. So the idea that you can do big steering with your A and D keys, but if you
Mm-hmm.
want a finer, precise thing, you can hold the mouse button and maybe it locks to be like centered on the car,
Mm-hmm.
and then when you shift it slightly, it'll turn the wheels more slightly.
Okay. Okay.
And yeah, just utilizing that analog input of the mouse.
So I think it's important to capture this because it's one of the obviously like it was one of the inspirations, wasn't it? I think you were saying previously.
The broader inspiration being sort of simplifying driving a manual car.
Yeah. Yeah. But you also had there was a fishing game as well you were talking about.
Yeah, web fishing.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think I think that's kind of important to capture here as well. So there is on here. I mean, we're focused right at the moment on the what you might call the aesthetics, the internal relationship the player has, so the player experience. There is the functional experience as well, which I don't have there, but that's pretty much what you're talking about. Is the control, how to control the vehicle. So I think that's a really important thing that needs to go in there because it is going to be related to the internal player experience.
Yeah, definitely.
And mind you, feel free to use whatever you like. If you want to use images or you want to use diagrams or whatever, I think the important thing here in this format is to have things that are actually meaningful to you as the designer.
Right. Okay. Gotcha. So if we're focusing on that, what was the word you used?
Functional?
Yeah, I would keep thinking of input.
Well, it is. I mean, input and output. So the functional
Yeah.
relationship, and I think it's important that because you did say a lot of things there. So number one, keyboard and mouse. So the input is going to be between the keyboard and mouse. So maybe throw that sort of in on the left or the right or something because you're going a functional relationships, yeah. So maybe just include again, just chucking things in there. So the words, keyboard, mouse, whatever. Active shift. Precision, is that something you also said as well? Or thoughtful? So I like the way this
Yeah.
connects. So the thoughtful manner. I mean, we'll be going into the avatar at some stage as well. So I mean that these connect here as well. But thoughtful and deliberate.
Deliberate. I always misspell deliberate.
ERATE.
Thank you.
So I'm wondering whether thoughtful. I mean, is part of the player experience. Um,
Mm.
but obviously that's connecting very much with the.
Should I put it in both?
You maybe we'll put it in between and
Mhm.
yeah. We can draw diagrams and stuff in here, can't we, as well?
Yeah, there's under elements on the left, you can get shapes, so you can get arrows and
Hmm. So maybe at some stage we can put it into a more understandable sort of diagram. So
yeah,
the
yeah,
thoughtfulness being connected to the to that element of it. So you got here primary design goal, compelling. Okay, that's fine. Why is it compelling? Distills the act of driving while maintaining the feeling. What feeling? Distills the act of driving.
yeah.
Please
This
elaborate.
is
Please elaborate.
yeah. So this is the specific. The one part inspiration is from web fishing,
Mm-hmm.
which has the so when you cast your line, you simply click and hold to determine how far you cast, and then it bobs around the water. When you get a bite, you get
Can you do me a
graph
favor?
show up.
Can you
Yeah,
get some sort of image from web fishing? If maybe you've got one already,
yeah.
and throw it on there.
I
I think
can
it's.
do that.
I think because that's a key sort of inspiration, if I recall.
Let's see. Oh, that's 60 meg. Let's try this. Is this gonna upload nicely? Yes. So yeah, that's the graph I'm talking about. So when you catch a fish, that's loaded for you.
Not yet.
Okay, I will wait so that I'm not just. And then I guess while I'm here, I'll pull this
Yeah,
example
cool. There we go.
as well.
Ah, nice.
Yeah, so
Nice.
when you catch a fish, you get this bar show up, and you hold the mouse button to progress that bottom end of it, and you
Mm-hmm.
come across barriers, and you have to mash the mouse button to get through each one.
Right.
And if you manage to get through it before the green bar runs out, then you catch the fish.
Mm-hmm.
And so uh, that experience, not that I've gone fishing a lot, but there is something familiar in that sense of you cast and you wait, and when you in real life when you feel that sort of tug on the line when the fish bites, or in the game when you see it pop up, there's that jolt of energy, and
Mm-hmm.
then you get to sort of this mini game acts as an outlet for that. You get to mash the mouse as fast as you can, which can become quite a, you know, in the realm of gaming, a physically demanding task.
Mm-hmm.
Similar to what fishing can be. And so that I really liked the way it captured that sort of emotional state of fishing in real life.
Yeah.
And then I thought about my experience driving a manual car and the satisfaction that I get from shifting really smoothly,
Mm-hmm.
and trying to figure out how I could distill that using the inputs we have in video games, but capturing the same sort of emotional response, which is
Mm.
where this idea of active shift came from.
Mm-hmm.
The broader context for that is, I think, like web fishing, all you do in the game is fish using this minigame, sell the fish to buy upgrades to be able
Yeah.
to fish bigger fish.
Yeah.
And so I found the game really compelling just because that sort of short gameplay loop really fed into the idea of fishing in a game.
Mm-hmm.
And so if I can recreate that with driving, I figured that would make a really compelling sort of gameplay loop.
Mm. Mm. Cool. Okay, great. There's another one, another GIF up there. Did you mean to put that up there with a gun?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah. So, um, when trying to figure out how uh, I could represent gear shifting uh, in the game, what jumped to my mind is the Gears of War active reload mechanic.
Mm-hmm.
So the GIF there, you can see when the player reloads, it pulls up this little bar with a line, and if you hit reload again, if you hit it in the bright white, you get a perfect reload. In that sort of middle grey, it's a faster reload, but not as good. Or
Mm-hmm.
you can choose to let it go, in which case it just takes longer. So it's all about reducing the time of the reload.
Okay.
And so my idea was essentially using something like that, but for changing gears. And so if you shift gears at the right time, if you
Yeah.
hit the sweet spot, you'll get some sort of speed boost or reward. And
Yeah.
if you miss it, if you mistime it, then the car will shake and rattle like it does a bit in real life. And the idea being in the game,
Oh dear.
if you've got all your cargo stacked precariously, it might get launched out.
Okay, that's interesting. That's interesting. So you don't have precision down anywhere yet, though, but and precision sounds very much exactly what you're trying to do. So yeah, I definitely recommend chucking that word in there somewhere.
I'll add it to functional? Yeah.
Yep. Yep. Cool.
Yeah, I'm
Okay.
letting my brain catch up to everything I've said to make sure I got everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that covers most of it. There was that other point in the design goals,
Mm-hmm.
which is more so going into the gameplay loop. Did you want me to cover that as well?
Let's make sure we've done everything just on this first
Sure.
slide. Just having a look myself. So primary goals are fun, compelling, driving experience. Probably driving experience should be there somewhere. I think.
Right. I guess that is also under the functional.
Well, depends how you. This is the thing about games is the functional and the mechanics. I mean, it's through the interaction with the mechanics of the game that you have the player experience, the aesthetics of the game. So they're not really separate. I mean, they are part of the same thing, but we need to consider them. So you need to think about primarily the player experience you're trying to create when you're trying to design the functional elements of the game. So basically, that's
Yeah, I think in my head it was like driving experience is specifically the functional relationship. The idea, I guess, a better word would be like driving representation. Because in my mind, the sort of emotional, the player experience is road tripping, and so I guess in that sense, it fits into the same space as thoughtful, where there is a functional representation and a player experience representation that it applies to both, like you're saying, crosses over.
And also, when you talk about driving experience, though, I mean, if you think about that, that's going to mean different things to different people. So, a delivery driver, it might mean X, whereas someone who's driving, on holidays to a holiday destination, it would potentially mean something different. Depending on the type of car as well, like if you jump into a luxury sports car, that's going to be a different experience than jumping into an old sort of banger that you've just bought because you've started driving and you've sort of just got your license and you can only afford something relatively cheap. So I mean, you could expand it, to different things like that. You can sort of go into it, like what is a driving experience? That's a whole design element itself. I mean, I guess that depends. Yeah, that's another element to think about. Is it a luxury? Is it a luxury van or?
Well, part of our hope, and because this feels one of the elements that is very scope dependent is having enough variety in the vehicles the player can drive to sort of fulfill those different driving experiences. So broad examples being, if they're driving like a big box truck and they've loaded it to the brim, then they'll have more of that delivery driver posty sort of experience.
Okay.
Or if they have some sort of sports car where they can have maybe a package stuck to the back.
Oh, on their lap, a package on their lap.
And
yes.
so I think like the dream would be to provide enough space to achieve multiple versions, multiple interpretations of a driving experience.
Yep.
But yeah.
Okay.
Scope.
Yes. Yeah. I'm hearing that. I'm hearing scope. Cool. Do you probably want to put active shift down there? The mechanic you call active shift. You should probably chuck that there somewhere.
Functional.
Yeah.
Cool.
Faulty gears, how to change them. Yeah, okay. We'll come back to that stuff. This is sort of a bit more in depth. Experiment with other mechanics. Oh, okay. Such as the camera and steering. Okay, I think that's what you're talking about, yeah? So the camera being controlled by the mouse, and yeah.
Yeah, and I recall specifically what made me include this is playing driving games, especially Long Drive I've played a bit of, which is just about this massive road trip, and how frustrating it was that you could never line the car up to go down the road. You always had to be adjusting to make sure you were staying on the road. And I think in that game that works because it's meant to kind of be frustrating and micromanaging in that way. But in our game, we want the player to have times where if there is a long stretch of road, they can get the car lined up nicely so they don't have to constantly be adjusting the steering.
Okay, sounds good. Also, you got here. You want to create a game where the player can drive, stack, crash, and uncover, and where one of these actions affects the others. When you say drive, what do you mean stack? Is that the same as crash?
Yeah, just sort of getting in. Oh, sorry, actually no. Stack in that context referring to loading the car with packages.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I was wondering why you'd have stack and crash there. For those who are not in Australia, stack means crash in Australian slang as well. So it's like crash and crash. So stacking. Okay, so they can drive, load, and maybe load would be a better word. Crash? What do you mean crash?
We see, like crashing, spinning out, rolling the car as an integral part to the gameplay loop.
Right.
Sort of as the penalty for driving too fast or not being skillful enough with the mechanics.
Is that supposed to be recover where you got uncover? Crash and recover?
Uncover, they're referring to wanting to give players the space to explore and discover things in the environment.
Okay.
This sentence was kind of our attempt of smashing the gameplay loop into one sort of amalgamation.
Okay, that's good. I think that's good. Let me just see. So, okay. We'll go through the whole thing and try and just tease out as much as we can. I think if that's like this. Yeah. This is I guess gonna be a longish experience. It's gonna be longish, but this is kind of how we get like everything we want. So I think we've got pretty much all we need out of the first one. Again, I guess I'm thinking of overall player experience stuff. Post-apocalyptic. Yeah, well, geez, we haven't hit that at all. That's the first time. Post-apocalyptic Aussie outback. Right. That completely changes everything. That one word.
I think I don't know if it's because I should probably put concept art into the whiteboard, but we do have like our visual inspiration is very much yeah, it's concerning to me how Death Stranding-y this this is now that I've played it. But
Would you want to throw some stuff in there? Maybe make another section, and we can put some images in there. So this is the one that Gemma did.
Yes. Yeah, that's all Gemma's handiwork.
Mm-hmm.
And then we've got and so that sort of ties in with the NPC robot concepts.
Mm-hmm.
We wanted to lean into that validation, right? Like if the player is tasked with delivering things, if it's post-apocalyptic setting, in many ways similar to Death Stranding, those sort of deliveries can become even more crucial and vital, and so sort of the validation and the respect you get for doing them can feel much greater.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's definitely very much a Death Stranding, although I'm sure your game is going to look completely different to Death Stranding.
Oh,
but the mechanics, yeah, there's a lot of similarities. Yes, there's a lot of similarities for sure. So, is there more? That's all the concept art. The three
That's
you've
all
got
we've
there?
got.
Yep. Cool. Okay. Yeah, it doesn't look like Death Stranding, so I think you're okay.
yeah.
I think you are okay.
Don't tell Kojima.
I guess the one like this one here. I guess post-apocalyptic cozy game is not something that I kind of see in the same, description of a game. Although, sorry, carry on.
No, good. I was just gonna say, I think post-apocalyptic might be a bit strong of a word, but the idea that I guess post-human, there's no intention to have like human characters.
Yeah.
So all of those sort of services have been.
No, I'm thinking Stray. Actually, yeah. Have you put that in as an inspiration at all? I mean, I think that. I mean. I think. I'm looking at the color scheme. I'm looking at the color scheme of this image here, and the sort of designs and things that you've got here, and that the robots and stuff in Stray kind of, yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna pull up because I'm like, now that you mention it, where did we do that? That was in Miro, not in Canva. I think I pulled them in as inspiration for our characters, but I don't think it actually came up as like inspiration for the world. But now that you pointed out, I'm like, oh yeah, no, that's definitely had an impact. That's stuck with me. Yeah, I don't want to. That's making me sign in. Why is that doing that? Okay. Yeah, I didn't want to share the full Miro board. Is the only thing.
The full Miro board.
The one that Gemma and I have been using.
Oh, okay. Can't you just copy? Can you copy and paste over to this one, or?
Yeah, or maybe it might be a screenshot situation.
Mm-hmm.
Because yeah, typically, the Miro board, I know you can change the background color for. That's what was confusing me.
Oh, you're on Miro, not right, not this one.
Yeah, Miro is a bit of a pain. Oh my gosh, I'm just looking at this whole board is a mess. I usually prefer for the interface, but it's really tough to make more than a couple free boards.
Yeah,
and
fair
then
enough.
It gets weird because you need to have like a team, whereas at least with Canva you can sort of just invite a couple people. yeah, what should I bring over? Did you want some of the art style references, or
Oh, I think it's kind of important when you're talking about the player's relationship with the game, because the art is a very significant part of that. We've talked about the functional elements, but the art and the style, um, really does have quite an impact.
Mhm. So that is sort of the looks inspiration that we went with.
Right.
I guess uh, the other thing was and yeah, apologies for low quality because I don't know how else to get these out quickly.
That's fine.
The other thing that I was using personally a lot as inspiration is my hometown, Whyalla.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so like literally you can see there just in
Yep.
Google Street View taking screenshots for ideas for landmarks and whatnot.
Mm.
Um,
So very dry. This would be basically outback Australia. Am I correct there? YL, is
yeah,
that outback Australia? Yeah.
it is. Yeah, it is coastal, but yeah, it's all saltbush
Right.
on the other side. So,
Mm-hmm.
and then I guess the other thing I can share uh, is the NPC inspiration.
Mm-hmm.
The really like raw before any sort of concept art happened. In a handy to digest tier list there.
I like the BP petrol Bowser. I think that's very iconic. Actually, that's very iconic.
Yeah, we wanted
Yeah.
iconic. We wanted things that people already have a relationship to,
Mm-hmm.
and sort of drawing on that. And that's why you can see, like in the concept art, Gem has done such a good job. It was their idea to do the like overworked, stressed, self-serve checkout,
Mm-hmm.
um, and yeah, just drawing on those things to help bridge the gap to this, yeah, like post-apocalyptic sentient machine sort of world by giving them caricatures that we can understand readily. And
Mm.
then like we were saying earlier about the little things, I think I've got lots of little bits of memory and nostalgia for things like really rural petrol stations and going into the servo and seeing the pie warmer, or you know, a really old shopping center with the chewy bubblegum dispensers and the ride-on things. So
Mm.
yeah, trying to take on all of that and use that as shorthand and try and yeah get people thinking about things as quick as we can in that
Mm.
sense.
Mm. Yeah. Okay. That fills things out quite a lot. Actually, that's really useful to have. So, um, coming back. So let's just have a look. So that gives us more information. So we've got at the moment we've got player. We're trying to do player experience. Do you want to do a heading? You got functional relationship. Do you want to do one for player experience as well above the other things you got there? So we kind of know.
Yes.
I'll bring those in. Um, yeah, so is there anything else? Sort of looking through, we're sort of moving into the design overview thing. We're kind of moving into kind of more details here, which I think is probably not what we need to sort of get into for this one.
Okay.
Not at this point. We will do, but so there's the locations. You've been talking about those, I guess. Now, NPCs. Okay, lighthouse. So yeah, cool. Environment and mood. Oversized sun. Okay, yeah. Hard shadows. Lighting fit in the afternoon. Style. That's audio style. Yeah, cool. Cool. So this sort of stuff, accessibility. Yeah. So have you got nostalgia there as well? Did you include nostalgia? Yes, you have. Yeah, cool. We might be just about have all of it, maybe.
I do want to double check. We did clean up a little bit from the original version to the version that you've got, and I want to make sure that I didn't miss anything. Because I think we had a bit more in like that first section.
Mm-hmm.
Mission docs. Yeah, I think this more so just goes into with the submission, we felt it kind of wanted to know more about us as well as the game when we were submitting. So I think most of what we cut out from your version is more so the significance from our point of view, which is basically summed up as we grew up in the country and so have a nostalgia for it, and so we want to share that. So I'm not sure if that's sort of relevant to what we're going over. I think that's about all we cut out there.
I mean, I think that's probably relevant from a design point of view. Whether it remains relevant, I mean, I think it's relevant from your point of view. You're bringing yourself, your own experience into it, so it's definitely relevant there. Does it need to be written down here? Not necessarily, unless it's sort of something that you really feel like needs to be written down. But I mean, it's kind of, it's I think your experience is definitely going to interact in the design, regardless. So it's up to you.
It seems like context more than anything. So
perhaps, yeah. So just looking through, so we've got the player experience there, and just thinking. So I've got emotion, mind, mental state, meaningfulness. Haven't really talked about time and space, but it's kind of a separate one in a way. It's important, but it is a bit of a separate one. So emotionally, quite interesting. So peace, sense of peace, exploration. So I mean, I'm thinking about a lot of the normal ones. So excitement, fear. You know, if you're doing, say, a horror game and things like that, what you would potentially put into there. It's kind of interesting to coming up with these different ones here. So the mental state, you've got your flow state, so that's going to be important. Is that exploration is probably a mental state as well, getting in that state of exploration. Do you want to maybe group those together?
Yeah. Do we want headers or?
Not yet. Let's sort of see. So mental. Is there anything else?
Do you think curiosity fits into this mental state or the emotion more?
Yes, curiosity is also certainly the mental state.
And then I don't know about
I mean, a lot of these are kind of mental. So relaxation can also be sort of a mental state. I mean, a lot of the terms we've used are more sort of mental states rather than actual emotions. Let me. I don't know whether the documents are, but I do have. Yeah, so if we have a look here. Oh, this one looks good. Where did the image go? Oh, here we go. Yeah. So when it comes to emotion, this is kind of more the stuff we're talking about. So happiness, sadness, fear, surprise, anger, disgust. Depending which model you're sort of going into, you can have different types of those. So I'm just kind of wondering, interesting, most of those are maybe negative. There's happiness, sadness, fear, disgust, anger. Goodness me, there must be that's quite a few negative emotions. That's kind of interesting. Let me see if I can find another one. That's actually there is another one here. Let me grab that one. Oh, do I have to go to? No, so let me do that. Wikipedia's got some stuff.
Yeah, I guess I don't know if maybe these sort of base emotions come from our reactions to things, and I guess.
I mean, this is obviously from this is psych stuff, so we don't have to use, it kind of yeah, we can kind of use whatever terminology we want to. It really matters what's useful. So here's another way of classifying emotions. So you got distressed, angry, tense, alert, excited, happy, content, relaxed, calm, bored, depressed, sad. Some of those actually match very much what we've got. And you'll notice there's a two-dimensional thing there. So you got arousal, so high arousal to negative arousal, and you also want something called valence, so negative valence to positive valence. I think this one's commonly used in sort of research areas. I would say that a lot of what you're talking about fits kind of into the bottom right-hand corner, so low arousal, high valence.
Yeah, I was gonna say, or that blue zone. Yeah.
Maybe up to happy. Can we get into happy? Are we going to get aroused enough to be happy, or just content?
I would like to. I think the way I see it is the mechanics of the game. It's at a success state. It's fitting into that blue zone, and I guess if you're struggling, that's where it would be pushed into sort of that yellow zone, where it'd be that distressed, angry, tense. If you're constantly messing up gear shifts and packages are flying out. So I see it as that kind of diagonal across. But I think with some of the intentions for the writing and the narrative, that's where we might be able to push it up into the happy zone, or even across to sort of the sadder ends, depending on the narrative. But,
I think it's quite interesting what you're saying about if your players fail to do their gear shift, and it actually flips from the blue to the to the opposite. I think that's quite an interesting thing to be aware of. Um, that in itself could inform the sort of design of the game itself. I think that's kind of quite interesting. So,
Do you
do you
think
find?
that's
So,
typical for games to sort of, you know, be in tension between those two ends?
um, well, I mean, you might have heard of a little experience, little player experience called Rage Quit. So, is that intentional? I don't think so. I don't think it's actually intentional, but it certainly happens when things get difficult, when there's cognitive overload. Um, it interests me here because this is a very commonly used way of understanding human emotions in research, and you would have the opportunity to go into more depth if you so chose to, in how to achieve these. And I think having the different the different dimensions there as well. I think this sort of thing can inform design in certain ways as well. I find this quite interesting. Yeah, for me personally, you may or may not. I'm not too sure, but
I think, yeah, I don't know. I guess I'm sort of torn because I can see its value as a tool, just like how we've used it now. But I don't know. To me, my instinct is to try and cross those sort of zones.
mm-hmm,
Because when I'm thinking about design, I'm thinking about putting the player in tension. And I guess if you wanted to relate that to that flow graph, you know, you have like when things are too easy or too hard, and you try and
mm-hmm,
find that middle zone.
mm-hmm,
And it's a similar sense for me is, yeah, trying, you know, if I think about it, and if the player was sat in that blue zone, in that relaxed zone all the time, I feel I would shift to that bored zone before long. But if I was being thrown towards the yellow and then having to work my way back, that's where I see the satisfaction of playing, I guess.
but aren't we talking? I mean, I would say that blue zone is flow, the flow state. So if you're in the
Interesting.
flow state, yeah, because if you're across into board, then you're out of the flow state. You're definitely out of the flow state. Yeah, I would say, yeah, the whole blue area from calm, relaxed, content, that has to be flow because you're not. Otherwise, well, either you're getting, and maybe even into, but if when once you start getting happy, you're actually getting out of that flow state. Like a flow state is kind of almost a neutral state. Um, so getting happy, alert, excited is kind of not so much flow state type stuff.
Yeah,
It's
I
actually
guess
really interesting. I quite like this diagram in relation to this
yeah,
conversation.
I guess I might have misinterpreted the flow state because I'm
Hmm.
thinking about my player experience, my personal,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like the most I'm in that sense, like the relaxed sort of flow state
Hmm.
is when I'm playing something like nonograms on my phone. You know, we
Mm-hmm.
have like the grid and numbers, and you have to fill out the right number of boxes.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel more compelled. Like the other day when I was playing Yakuza,
Mm-hmm.
and I was telling my partner about it, how invested I was because essentially one of the characters had gotten in danger, and I was following a trail of their blood to try and find them before the other Yakuza did to kill him.
Mm-hmm.
And then once I found where he was, I had to fight through dozens and dozens of enemies to get to the roof to see him, you know, sort of on death's door, only to have another character revealed to have been killed, and then the person who killed them be there at the top. And I guess the context for that is that sort of like classic storytelling, I felt most compelled when things were getting more and more and more and more difficult. And just when I thought I'd finally reached the goal, sort of the rug was pulled out of me, and I realized, no, I have to go through this whole other boss battle to sort of get that resolution. And that's what I'm sort of seeing as that tug between, you know, that sort of relaxed state and the yellow angry state.
Uh, so you're sort of saying up here.
Sorry, I'm
So you
waiting
say?
for Twitch to get up. Uh no, I mean for me it was fully uh I was in the yellow working my way to the roof of this building fighting enemies,
Yeah.
getting to the top and seeing them starting to move towards that green, like the happy sort of side, only to then be dragged back into the distressed sad side.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, yeah, I guess the point I'm getting at is that's what I found most compelling, but I guess that's my misinterpretation of flow isn't necessarily compelling, it's just a state we enter when things are balanced.
Yes. Sorry, I'm trying to download this at the same time as well.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
Hang
I
on.
really like this is a good diagram.
Why? Yeah. Oh, that's where it is. That's why. Do you mind if I chuck it onto the
Please, yeah.
thing? Because I think this is a really interesting. Yeah, I think this is a really interesting thing to consider. Let me just.
I'm wondering if I feel like flow state has been a really popular sort of design concept.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, excuse me. A design concept through my study, and even before that, before I was like in uni studying it, just learning about games passively was always like this big thing, the flow state.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
this conversation is sort of making me go, I don't know, I feel like I was told flow was kind of the be all end all, and I'm realizing now that it's not, and if anything, it's not even where my interest lies mostly in games.
Yeah, I mean, I think flow is a type of when you're in a type of trance. Flow is like a type of trance. So it's like no effort, but you're in the flow in the flow, you know. So yeah. To me, it's always been. Oh, where's my? Oh, here we go. It's always been down in this blue area. And look, I can even tell you, interestingly enough, because I wear a like a sleep monitor Garmin watch, which also measures your stress levels as well. And when I'm playing certain games, and I get into that flow state, I can see it on my watch. I can see it'll show when I've got into that, and like it goes into almost like the same level as when I'm asleep, which is really interesting. Wow. This level up here, so I think you were talking about the alert, excited, that the the higher arousal area. Was I getting that correct?
Yeah, I mean, in my Yakuza example, I would put it even further over on this left side, but yeah. Generally.
Yeah, so high arousal.
Yeah, definitely.
Absolutely. And certainly some games like this is again. I said, I hate the word fun. Why would this ever be fun? Really, that's not what I would call fun. Tense, angry.
Yeah.
But if you're
enjoyable.
that's why I prefer the whole idea of compelling experiences.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing worse, the archetypal example for me is Rust, where you go and you invest a whole lot of time and energy building a base and collecting resources and whatever, and then you get attacked by some prick, and they go and raid your base and take all your shit, and it's like, that's not fun. That's not a fun experience, but it can be incredibly compelling. I mean, that's something that we can draw in. You will get tense, you will get angry, you will get distressed, and if you lose all your shit, you'll certainly get sad, depressed, and then you may even throw the game away. You may even leave, because you might get bored because everything's gone. So, yeah, actually, this is a really interesting. I've never really looked at this in relation to game design, but I think this is a very interesting, diagram to look at different types of player experiences.
And it's interesting. I feel like I can't think of examples where being depressed or bored would ever be a desirable state in a game. but all of the others I can see a time. And it's interesting seeing it laid out like this to
Yeah.
know sort of if you're trying to pull on sadness or on calm, that's sort of the danger zone. You're quite close to, I
Yeah.
guess, yeah, either rage quit or people giving up and
Yeah.
dropping the
Depressed and
game. Which,
bored would be, but then again, angry too, like too high arousal. People
yeah,
rage quit. Distressed, absolutely. You know.
I think I know there are types of gamers who really enjoy that though. That you
Rage
get
quit.
people, yeah, or I mean, they enjoy being pushed to those limits.
Mm-hmm.
That's sort of for Deep Climb. A lot of the inspirations there come from pushing that line. Like if you look at Getting Over It,
Mm-hmm.
it's a very difficult game with unintuitive mechanics.
Mm-hmm.
And then to top it off, when you fall, you get some narrator come in and start, making a mockery of you, really trying to push that line. But
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
feel like
Yeah.
you don't see that with the depressed and bored side. I feel like I can't sort of picture a player type who seeks games that push that line of,
No, I can't. No, no. I mean, you don't play a game because you want to be bored or depressed or even sad. I can think of films that can certainly make you sad. There's
yeah,
no doubt about that. The films that make me bored and depressed, I switch off, switch something
yeah,
else on. So yeah, I think you're correct. I can't see why you would get into um, into that. That would be the quadrant that you would be avoiding in your games.
yes, I think so.
Yeah, yeah. Even
And
sad, like
if you're going there, I think it's knowing when to sort of pull back before you really start losing a lot of players.
what about Silent Hills PT? Because that was creepy. Like that was that kind of bordered on distressed in some ways. I think
Yeah,
sometimes. Yeah.
yeah, I think definitely. And even for certain players, uh, the narrative going on could start crossing into that line where it's too depressing. Um,
Yeah.
so it
Absolutely.
is, yeah,
And interestingly enough, I'm looking at this. So you've got in that game, and perhaps in horror games, maybe in general, you'd be kind of starting around the sort of excited, maybe a little bit less than excited area, and then going up to alert, tense, potentially angry, and to distressed. So kind of that's the half you want to use. Now the interesting thing is, and you mentioned this when I was going through Silent Hills PT. There were times when nothing had happened, and you'd kind of go here. It's
hmm
like, okay, hang on, what's going on? Because there wasn't enough. So you go from arousal, or you'd flip to kind of almost a boredom. You don't go to calm and relax. It's never calm and relax. I can tell
well,
you, in that game.
I think in some horror games it is crucial to hit those calm, relaxed areas. Like I'm not a huge horror game player, but I've seen things like Outlast, and I feel like, or even Resident Evil with the safe rooms. I think
But I would say
having,
that might be a relative thing. I don't think
yeah,
you would ever get like cozy cozy game
no,
type
yes,
vibes in a horror game like that. You would be
yeah,
more between excited. I don't think you get much less arousal than kind of excited. I mean, happy. You might be happy that you're in your safe room. You may get to content, but I mean, well, in fact, I guess if you could get someone relaxed, and that's the jump scare, isn't it?
yeah.
So, and then you just bang the arousal straight up to 10,
hmm
and that's how you get someone.
But I
Yeah.
think we experienced it in PT where
Mm-hmm.
I think they were trying to set up that relaxed into jump scare,
Yeah.
but we
Yeah.
couldn't get the puzzle to work properly, and that's when it drifted into board. And so yeah,
Yes.
I think you're right. It's nowhere near the levels of like a cozy game, but I think pulling people in that direction just to set them up to be frightened,
Mm,
tense, alert,
mm,
or distressed again is sort of, and that's what I'm sort of thinking about with Arvo is I don't want to keep players constantly relaxed. I want them to be able to find that, but then throw situations that will pull them away from it, and then it's up to their response to sort of dictate how far they get pulled out. Um, whether that's a kangaroo jumping across the road and making them swerve if they can avoid it. They only get pulled so far towards sort of tense or excited, and then, but if they crash, that's where they go into further into those other emotions.
mm. Okay, that's in. I think I again look. I think this is a really interesting thing to be aware of. I'm just putting a link in there. You know, um, to in case we want to go and go into more depth later because I think this is quite useful. I think this is actually a really useful little diagram for understanding the emotional what do you call it journey in games. I think this works really well. So yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I want to throw it throw it to my partner who's been studying psychology for a while and
Mm.
see what her thoughts are and see
Mm-hmm.
if she can pull anything out. It's I think it's really good having people in spaces where you can get out of the game design lens because I feel like sometimes I get really caught up in it.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Well, let me know. Let me know what she says. That could be quite interesting to know. Yeah. So it's 4:30. We've kind of been going for an hour and a half. It's been fun, but
Yeah,
we should probably wrap that up. I think it's not a bad place to be in. Next week, what we'll I think do is the next step. We haven't really talked about meaningfulness. That's probably one we do need to talk about. Time and space we don't need to talk about just at the moment, but we will need to talk about at some stage. But then there's the relationship with the avatar. Now, that's probably what we'll start with when we catch up next week, and we'll talk about the avatar. I don't want to start that now, so we can
not the
talk about.
movie. I'm assuming though.
Not the movie. No, an avatar is the player's avatar in the game. That's your character or your car or your whatever you in the game, whatever that happens to be. So that's what an avatar is. Yep. So we'll do that. Very interesting. Very interesting. I'm very interested. I'm quite. I think this is this is something to go into. I'm very interested to see if there's any more, if there's any stuff written on this. I think this is worth. I think this is worth going into from a game design point of view. Using this to understand the game player's state at any particular time, arousal and valence. I think that could work very, very well, like very interestingly. Anyway, let's wrap it up.
Yep.
Good to chat. And I guess we'll be back again next week.
Yeah, sounds good.
Sounds good. Alrighty, cool. All right, oh, it was good. It was a good day. I enjoyed this one. So we'll catch up with everyone same time next week.